Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Pyatt and welcome to my YouTube channel. My goal is to help as many martial artists as possible in their journey and study of Hojojutsu, whether you are a complete beginner or an experienced martial artist. I do videos every Friday, so if you'd like to enjoy this video, then please click subscribe to get more. This week I'm going to deal with a video that I had as a question from a dear friend in Germany. Ronald, this one is for you. The question was very simple. If you were doing Juji gatame, which is a straight armbar, how could you transition from that position in order to apply handcuffs? Now, I'm not in law enforcement, and so I don't carry handcuffs around with me, apart from the pink fluffy ones in my bag. So I'm going to show you a historical way that this could have been done. And the samurai term for these type of techniques would be called Hojojutsu. Hojojutsu is the art of binding, or is rope techniques. And the samurai had a whole variety of different arrest methods that they would use for these. And it's important to understand the context of when we talk about samurai, that we don't talk about the ultimate in the warrior class, because the samurai was a whole class of people, and within that class there were subdivisions. So some samurai would have been effectively like office clerics and would have been administrators, whereas others would have been allowed to carry the katana, the sword. So it's a fallacy that all samurai carried katanas, because the symbol of the samurai is actually the hakama. So all samurai were permitted to wear hakama, but not all samurai were permitted to carry a katana, wakizashi, and tanto. So within that, some samurai would have used these type of techniques as arrest techniques, and it is part of the myriad of techniques within Hojojutsu that perhaps is getting sort of lost and forgotten a little bit. So we'll have a look at this Hojojutsu technique, how you would use a rope to create handcuffs, and we'll do it for the sake of argument from the Juji gatame position. So Juji gatame, we'll just do it from the armbar position, which we've covered before lots and lots of times. Now I will say, the way that the samurai would have done this would not be the way that this would now be done. If you are trying to apply handcuffs in a civil context, obviously the person has some rights, so you can't do what the samurai would have done, which would be to break the arms and ask questions later. Not that I would advocate this as a starting position to try and do this, but this is the position we're going to start with. So how can I go from Juji gatame to a position where I could potentially apply the cuffs? So from here I've got my armbar. The samurai, like I said, would most likely at this point, if they got to this position, break the arm. And then it would be much easier to move my opponent. But if we are going to transition, what I want to do first of all is to turn onto the side and put the foot into the side of the neck. I need to keep my body weight leaning back to keep this arm stretched. I can kick into the face, put the foot at the back of the head. Now there is a choke and strangle here, and if I rotate, I have another arm on. So I'm keeping the technique on, the pressure here. From there, I can then transition and shoot the right foot on the back of the head, and if possible, hook the arm. If not, it doesn't matter, but it helps. Now to turn my opponent over, I'm going to rotate this arm and use a wrist lock. So we're using Nikyo here. That will enable me to turn my opponent over onto his back. And again from here, I can keep the pressure on so I've still got the arm. Then I can come out, and I'm going to bring my weight up here. Okay, so at this point, I'm just going to ask you to spin for me. Spin. Keep going. That's it, we'll stop. So, we are here. So I'm using my body, and I've got the shoulder. So if I want to apply handcuffs, ultimately I need my opponent to be in a prone position. So I'm going to fold the arm, keeping the pressure on, with my harrow all the time, and then slip this off. Right? Then I can bring this one through, and I'm using my legs to keep the arm lock on. Now, if you are ever doing any kind of control and restraint, it's never really a good idea to do control and restraint with one person on one person. But for the purposes of this technique, how could we apply handcuffs from this position? Now, I'm just going to relax this off for Mike's benefit so you can see what I'm going to do. So we need the rope. Right? To make the handcuffs, I'm only going to do this once, so watch carefully. Right? You need a loop. Hands go in, hands come out, fingers cross, and pull, so you have like so. Right? And then you're going to put one loop over each hand. You can do many variations of this where you put one over each thumb and etc. But I'm just going to use the hands. I'm going to pull that nice and tight. I'm going to use a very, very short rope for this technique, but the samurai would have used ropes of varying lengths from 3 foot up to 9 foot, depending upon the complexity of the bind. Now, just to tie this off as a really simple handcuff, what I want to do is go around, nice and straightforward, and then to make it tight, what I then need to do is cut back against itself. So I need to cut against, so that I've gone round and then I've come vertical. I can do it again if I've got a longer rope, I probably would. So that now is a tight handcuff that Mike shouldn't be able to get out of. Right? From there, come onto your knees for Mike. Good, sit back up, stand. Good. Then I've got a nice simple controlling restraint. The samurai at this point would have done a whole variety of different tying methods where you can come up and round the neck, so if my opponent struggles, he'll strangle himself. You can bind in at the arms, so you can come in at the elbows. They'd even tie underneath the legs, around the waist, a whole variety of different techniques. So, take this off the mark. Thank you very much, mate. And the important thing about samurai techniques is there are no knots. So, at no point do you create a knot. If you are going to practice that technique, make sure that you're very careful. Don't put it on too tight. Always respect your opponent and make sure that if they want you to stop, then do so. But hopefully that answers the solution of one way that you could apply handcuffs if you were in Juji gatame. So I hope you like the solution to my problem. If you don't, then let me know your thoughts below. And if you've got any other suggestions of how you could apply handcuffs in Juji gatame, let us know in the comments below. And I will see you next week, guys.